This lesson is about bouncing flash. Now, flash can be a really helpful tool, but if you don't know how to control the light coming out of your flash, it can end up making your photos look worse than if you had never used flash at all. So I'm going to take a picture of Tony here. He's backlit. I'll show you a photo taken with no flash and a photo taken with direct flash, which means pointed right at him, and then another picture taken with bounce flash off of the ceiling and the wall. With no flash, Tony's face looks dark and the background is better lit than he is. I'm going to turn my flash on. With direct flash, his face is the most lit thing in the photo, but the lighting looks pretty harsh. And now I'll bounce off the ceiling. When I bounce off of the ceiling, you can see that the lighting gets a little bit softer on his face and there are fewer glares in the background. And now I will turn my flash towards a wall and bounce off of the wall. When I bounce off the wall, you can see you get the effect of side lighting. The left side of his face is a little brighter than the right side of his face. And you can see from those different examples that depending on where you point your flash, you're going to get drastically different results. Those are just very simple snapshots to demonstrate what bounce flash can do, but with some creativity and practice, you can get really beautiful light out of your flash. I'll have Tony sit in this chair and we'll do a little portrait shoot and I can show you the different ways that I can bounce my flash. You look beautiful.
Thanks.
So Tony's pretty heavily backlit and there's some rim lighting around his face and his hair. So I'm going to try direct flash just to show you how that will fill the light in on his face. Let's try. And that looks pretty good, but the light is pretty harsh. It's putting some pretty harsh highlights on his face and the lighting looks very high contrast and not very natural. Now I'll try bouncing the light off of the ceiling and I'll pull out these cards. This clear card disperses the light and the white card will give a little bit of direct light and bounce it right towards Tony's face. So you can see that the light bounced off of the ceiling did make the light a little more flattering on Tony's face, but sometimes bouncing off of the ceiling can make the light come right down on your subject and create some harsh shadows under the eyes. So I'm going to try bouncing the light directly behind me so that some of the light bouncing back at him fills in his face a little more evenly. Let's see what happens. Now we're getting a little more light directly coming at his face, but we are getting a pretty strong color cast from the wall that it's bouncing off of. I don't exactly know why it's turning it so orange because nothing on this wall is orange. So I'm going to move my light around a little more and see if I can bounce it from a different direction. And I'll tilt my flash up a little bit and get a little bit of bounce from the ceiling as well. And I'm going to pull out my clear card as well. And now I'm getting more neutral color cast because I'm bouncing it towards our wall with white curtains. So now I'm going to try bouncing the light from the side and see what effect I get. And I can do that by just twisting my flash. He already has a shadow on the side of his face that's away from the camera, and I'm adding more light to the side of his face that has light. So instead of that, I'm going to fill in the side of his face that's in shadow. So I'll twist my light this way. And I'm tilting it up as well to get a little bit of bounce off of the corner of the ceiling, some of the wall, and instead of getting it directly at the side of his face, it's kind of coming down from the side. Can I get a smile? There we go. So you can see that I'm staying in the same location the whole time, Tony's staying in the same location, but I'm dramatically changing the light by just swiveling the head of the flash and bouncing it in different directions. Now I'm going to show you how to get the effect of a beautiful big soft light just by bouncing your flash. So let's try that. Once you start playing with your flash and realizing how many different ways you can bounce it, you can find some pretty interesting solutions to not having adequate light. Here you can see the sloped white ceiling. It's going to be a perfect place for me to bounce my light. It's going to hit the ceiling and then come right back at Tony, and essentially this big white space becomes my light source. So I'll do that by turning my flash around behind me over my head so that it will hit the ceiling. Let me take a before without the flash so you can see the difference. There you can see it goes from having kind of flat, not really beautiful light on his face to having this really bright, gorgeous light on his face that I don't think anyone would guess was a flash. Let me show you a dramatically different example of how you could bounce your flash off of a different subject and get a completely different look. This time I'm going to bounce the flash behind me again, but I'm going to bounce it off of my cabinetry. And I think this is a pretty relevant demonstration because you may find yourself in a situation where you're bouncing off of natural wood, like maybe the ceiling of a church or a cathedral or something like that. You might notice you have to bounce your light off of somewhere that's not ideal. And I'll show you the look that you might get. And now with flash, you can see the light still fills your subject, but you're getting this really dramatically different look where it's unnaturally warm. Now, you might be going for an unnaturally warm look, and that might be a good tool to keep in your tool belt. But if you find you're getting photos like that in a location like a church, realize it's the color cast off of the surface that you're bouncing your light off of. So you could use it to your advantage, or it might be a disadvantage. You just have to be aware of why you're getting results like that. Another thing you have to consider when you're bouncing your light is not only the color, but the material that you're bouncing your light off of. So anything too reflective like mirrors or my massive refrigerator behind me, they're going to leave a glare that's going to make the light in your photos inconsistent. You may be wondering, when would I ever do a photo shoot in a kitchen? But I've done many, not only for stock photography, but for headshots for chefs. So this is something that might come in handy. So let me show you what happens when I bounce my light off of the massive refrigerator and how inconsistent that light can be. I'll first without. And now with. And you can see that the light is a strange color, and it's darker on one side of his face and lighter on the other side of the face, and you're just not getting that consistent bounce flash beautiful light that you want. So be mindful of the surface, and you may be surprised. You might have a wall that has glitter in it. That's something I've seen before. There might be some metal on picture frames on the walls or some other reflective surface, so keep that in mind. Tony, I want to show them a beautiful trick of how to get some really nice wraparound lighting using your flash.
Okay.
Let's do it. You know where I am? It's really exciting. I'm in a corner, and here's why. If I bounce the light behind me in a corner, I'm getting light bouncing off of both sides and hitting Tony on both sides of his face, and it's an interesting look. So let me show you. So you can see the difference. It definitely added more light, but you're also getting this flattering light that almost looks like you're using a big softbox or V-flats on either side to bounce the light and fill in his face. And so if you have a corner with neutral wall colors, that's something you can use to your advantage. This is also a great corner to show you the drama of bouncing off of just one wall to get more directional looking light. And that can be like a really dramatic, beautiful, more moody look. So let me show you a before picture here. And now I'm bouncing the light off of just one wall to the left. And you can see that the dramatic side lighting is adding a lot more structure and definition to his face, and it's like a masculine, really attractive look. So you can see there are many different ways and directions where you can bounce your light, and it just takes a little bit of trial and error to figure out what will work for you. You can bounce off of corners to get multi-directional light. You can bounce off of the ceiling. Don't forget you can use your little cards here to send your light forward or disperse your light. One thing you never, ever, ever want to do is try to bounce off of the sky, because we've seen it and it's just not going to work for you.